Are you ready to get started?
Yes.
Okay. Everybody, welcome back to another episode of the Shop and Chivalry podcast. I'm with my guest today, Summer Devrow. How are you?
I am well, thank you.
Excellent. Well, I'm glad we finally got to do this and get together. You're running for mayor of Ocean Springs, yes?
I am.
Okay, excellent. And why?
I want to serve the citizens of Ocean Springs.
Okay.
I have had the pleasure of working for the city, and through my work, I got to meet a lot of people. I know a lot of constituents by name. I know their pets. I know their families, and they voice their concerns to me and their desires. And after seeing a lot of nothing done, I wanted to make a difference and run to represent the people and try to help them make their community the one they desire for it to be.
Well, that's certainly a laudable goal there. So what did you do with, so you work for the city of Ocean Springs?
I did. I worked for the police department for several years. I was the crossing guard for the school.
Oh, no kidding.
And so I know the children by name, and I know, like I said, the moms and the dads and the grandparents. And I got to see how beautiful our community is. And I felt that our people deserve more. They deserve to have a say-so in their community and what goes in it.
Yeah, I'm inclined to agree. It's funny. I remember, going to school because I used to live in Heron Bayou when I was younger, and there was a crossing guard lady that was. She would allow both lanes of traffic, and she was this like constant arm waving, and I thought, like, my goodness, like her shoulders must be.
That was me. That was me.
Oh, that was you.
That was me.
Oh, really? Oh, okay. Like, goodness, like that entire time doing like.
And I had
in
a
constant
very busy
rotation.
intersection.
Yeah.
I call myself the crossing guard extraordinaire. And the traffic flow, you have to keep it constant because they all arrive at the same time.
Right.
And they're all trying to get their children to school safely and get to their jobs.
Yeah.
So it was my job to ensure everything went smoothly.
Well, you did a fine job, I must say.
Thank you.
So you work in public works now?
I worked, what happened is when the school shut down due to COVID, I received a call from City Hall that we were going to be continuing to receive our paychecks, even though we were not working.
Okay.
And so I asked the lady on the phone if she can help me find work and receive a paycheck, because I did not want to stay home and receive a paycheck that I didn't earn. That's how I felt about it. So she said, let me call you back. And sure enough, she called me back within the hour. And she said, Public Works is hiring. We are in need of crews. And they put me in the beautification department, which had a shortage at the time. And so I quickly took to it, and I'm very good with plants and flowers. So I started to see what needed to be done, and I took initiative.
Yeah.
And 2 months later, they offered me the position full-time.
Oh, good.
Yeah. And I was in charge of taking care of Washington and Porter and Front Beach and East Beach. And, certain areas, and of course, all the welcome signs, the marquee, the caboose, and I ended up planting a lot of flowers and maintaining those areas. And I love the people. I want them to come and enjoy the city, whether you're going out with your family, whether you're just having a picnic, or whether you're just walking and taking it in. Yeah,
for sure. And I think a role like that is probably an unsung hero in a city that relies so heavily on, or maybe that's the wrong way to say it, but basically a city that has intrinsic beauty, both explicit and implicit within it, and its culture and history implicitly and explicitly with the displays and the work that you and your department did. So and again, another fine job, I'd say. So thank you for that. Yeah,
thank you.
So which party are you running for, or which party are you representing in your?
I'm representing the Republican Party.
Okay, excellent. What is it about being a Republican that you align with, in your campaign?
I am pro the people controlling and owning their own destiny. I do not like the government in my business.
Sure. Yeah, makes sense. And at a city level, which is, it seems to me, this is Brian speaking, and it seems to me that the letter next to your name in a political campaign is kind of a shortcut for people. They can look at that letter and say, I know everything that you believe in now, you know, but the reality is that we're infinitely complex people, right? And so you've probably got some beliefs that aren't entirely right leaning or left leaning or what have you, because you're an individual. And so at the city level, it seems to me that those letters next to the name matter less and less, because you're doing a job for the people.
Correct.
And the infinite complexities of people are you know, part of that. So does the letter actually matter at the city level, do you think?
I think the letter matters if the mayor has the capacity to change taxes. If the mayor is powerful, that will make a difference.
Sure. Yeah, that certainly makes sense. So how long have you lived in Ocean Springs?
I I came to Ocean Springs 8 years ago. And I came here on a fishing trip with some friends.
Go on.
And I never went back.
Okay.
I used to live in Louisiana, you know, the sportsman's paradise for fishermen. I used to fish in Venice.
Okay.
I love fishing in the Gulf Coast. I love deep saltwater fishing.
Okay.
River fishing is fine, but it's not for me. I like the adrenaline rush of deep sea fishing. So I came here on a fishing trip, and we pulled up after the fishing trip to get gas. And I just remember looking around and I felt cheated. Like all my life I've been living in all these places, and where has this place been? It was like a hidden treasure.
Yeah.
So I have, of course, connections here from friends. And so I asked if I could stay with them. And I sold my house in Louisiana and I moved my daughter here, and she started in kindergarten. So she was 5 when we moved here. She'll be 14 in October. Wow. And I never looked back.
That's awesome. So you got a teenager here in the school district too, as well. I do,
yes. She currently attends 7th grade.
Okay, gotcha. So what are your thoughts of the Ocean Springs school system?
We have, hands down, the best public school system.
Right.
A lot of people move here to attend the public schools. My daughter has been thriving, and I could not have asked for better teachers. And I'll be honest with you, the first year I was leery. I was hoping we would get a kind teacher who is well-educated and patient and capable. And I could not have asked for a better teacher. And then that next year, that became my norm. Then I started to expect nothing less but the best. And so far, I have not been disappointed. They have gone above and beyond for my child. Yeah.
You know, on that point, it seems rare to have in any sort of productive endeavor so many talented people just always. And the Ocean Springs school system is, peerless, honestly, and especially in the state. You know, as Mr. Hirsch used to call it, it's the Ocean Springs juggernaut. You know, it's an unstoppable force. So, yeah, that's wonderful. Which ward do you live in?
I live in Ward 3.
Okay, excellent.
I live right off of Government.
Excellent. So living off of Government, I guess we can start there. So there's issues downtown with, say, like parking and whatnot. And it seems also that maybe the golf carts have added to that congestion. What are your thoughts on the traffic issues facing downtown?
Well, first of all, I want to say when you go downtown and it's jam-packed with traffic, thank God for that, because that means we're alive and we're thriving and our businesses are busy.
Sure.
I do not want to certainly pull up and have a ghost town with infinite parkings available.
Right.
So in a way, I think that adds to the excitement, actually. You arrive and the town is already bustling with life. We are alive in Ocean Springs.
That's a great perspective, yeah.
So the golf carts, I have 2 schools of thoughts on this. Some people love them, and some people think I should pull them over and have them arrested. So I like golf carts. I say let's try them. I definitely was thinking if we could make the city more walkable, completing the sidewalks, then perhaps we can have a multi-level parking building, and then you can park and just walk and enjoy the city. Because when you walk, also you get to linger and you see more and you experience more than when you're just driving in a car trying to get out of that street.
Yeah, for sure. The worry I have about the parking, especially as we start to expand down Porter, is that we're going to reach a point of diminishing marginal returns with the businesses down there, and that is we can add businesses, but maybe not be able to provide logistically the access to those businesses because of the sort of downtown parking situation. Do you share that same concern, or what are your thoughts?
Well, if we construct a building, that's multi-layered, it's a different level garage, then you can just come park your car and you'll be able to reach that business. And if the golf cart industry is a success, then perhaps you can use that, if you have difficulty walking or navigating the city. I just think that's all I have to say.
I gotcha. Fair enough. So if you have a parking garage and you make the city more walkable, do you have a plan for providing the access to people that are maybe handicapped or have ADA type issues? Okay.
Yes. Yeah.
What are your thoughts on that?
Well, maybe we can have a shuttle at the building, and we'll just shuttle them, and we'll run them in one of those limousine golf carts.
Yeah.
We can have it really nicely done.
So is that something that the city would provide, or are you hoping the free market to capitalize on that opportunity?
Well, I'm not in office yet. And I think I want to see if we're capable of doing that. I'll be glad to provide it. If not, then we will rely on our generous citizens.
Right.
And we have a lot of generous citizens in Ocean Springs.
Well, and there's, Ocean Springs is ripe with people willing to, play the free market game. We passed the golf cart ordinance, and then a business pops up renting golf carts, so it certainly has that potential. What are your thoughts on maybe making government one way to combat the access issue?
I don't think that would work.
Okay. Why?
Humans are creatures of habit, and if you're used to going a certain way, taking a certain path, it will take a long time for you to adjust and change your habits. And my concern is, if we make government one way, how is that going to affect Bowen? And how is that going to affect Cache Alley?
Yeah.
Now, mind you, I work for the city, so I know the streets of the city like the back of my hand. I spend 40 hours a week on the streets of Ocean Springs. I think I know every ditch and every crack and every dent that is in our city limits.
Yeah. Well, that certainly makes sense, and that's the concern as well. The residents on Bowen don't want, essentially 50% of the traffic that would be on government, and I think there's concern about the business losing the business opportunity if the traffic gets back on 90.
Exactly.
Yeah.
Exactly.
Yeah. Interesting. These are interesting problems, for a city, and they're obviously important. Now, when you said make the city more walkable, I think of there's larger cities where that's the goal, and so they'll have large urban areas that are there's no vehicles. Emergency vehicles can get there, and maybe delivery trucks. There's an ordinance for that, but there's no cars. So is that something that maybe Ocean Springs could look into, if not a permanent thing where certain streets, certain areas are, people walking only and no cars, maybe golf carts. But if not that, then maybe like a Friday, Saturday kind of deal. What are your thoughts on?
There's a sidewalk project that has been in the making for the last 6 years, and it starts on Washington, and it's supposed to extend all the way to Hanshaw, where the middle school is. And that project should be completed, hopefully, in the next 18 months.
Okay.
The wheels of the city turn slowly.
Sure.
And as an insider, I know how long it takes to get something done. Now, if we can complete that street, and we have certain streets that are assistance in entry to other smaller streets like Halstead and Holcomb, if we can expand the sidewalks on those, that would be very helpful to the people.
Sure.
And I see mothers jogging down the street with their babies and strollers, and I think to myself, we have got to expand sidewalks for these mommies and children to be crossing and exercising safely. I also noticed we don't have cycling lanes, and I think that that's very important to add. Drivers have to have respect for people who are cycling and people who are walking. We are a community after all. This is not an enormous city, so we have to accommodate our citizens and our community and keep our focus on that.
Right. I was recently told about the sort of risk of the gates that are not gates, I guess barriers you would say, that are on the sidewalks that are near the middle school. And it was an interesting perspective, but it was that, if you're walking on those sidewalks there's like a ditch below, right? And so the barriers are designed to keep you from falling in the ditch. But somebody raised the concern that, well, if a truck is veering off the road, or vehicle, where am I going to run to? There's no egress out of something like that.
Yeah. Well, I understand that's certainly a concern issue.
Yeah.
I want to bring out something about the ditches. There's a ditch on Front Beach that people complain about a lot. That ditch was so helpful when Hurricane Zeta hit us a few months back, and a lot of the debris went straight into it. The other side of Front Beach, where Martin and Cleveland are, there is no ditch, and all the debris was scattered across those streets. So the public works, we had to shut down the streets, and it took us about 3 weeks to clean everything. So although the ditch might be unsightly or undesirable,
it's got utility.
It certainly served its purpose. In fact, we were wishing there was a ditch on that side because we had to close the street for several days. I remember working for 3 weeks. We didn't get a day off. We worked 10-hour shifts every day. And our supervisor, Mr. Alan Ladner, the director of public works, said, "We are a team. We will get this job done, and we will work every day tirelessly for the city and for the people." And we were getting calls and complaints about, "Oh, you didn't pick up my trash." We have 18,000 people to tend to. But ultimately, we got it done. And I'm very proud of that.
Yeah, certainly. And that makes sense.
I believe that the city government should be transparent with the people at all times. I believe everything should be out in the open, with the two exceptions when it comes to personnel matter. And if we have to go to litigation, which is the process of taking legal action.
Right.
And those are the only two exceptions I feel should be held privately. Because in personnel matters, you do not want to bring up people's personal issues. They have a right for privacy. And as far as litigation, I think that just goes back to the legal system, because it's court. It could be admissible in court. And I think that's mainly designed for the protection of the people who are involved in the issue.
Well, and the city itself, because after all, they are agents of the city, right? So through agency, what they say matters and has legal ramifications of that. Do you think that the city has, abused executive session or used it more than they should have?
No.
Okay.
I think each administration does the best that they can with what they have.
Yeah.
And unless you're in the room, you do not know what's going on.
Without getting into specifics, have you been in executive session?
No.
Have you been a part of that? Okay,
no,
gotcha.
Not yet. Not yet.
It's coming.
It's coming.
Wonderful. Yeah, there was. I know that there was a number of situations and, dare I say, controversies in surrounding maybe executive session, talking about the Mary C. There was also a project where they decided to give $30,000 to a firm to bring in 100 businesses over the course of a year, and at the end of that firm brought in 0 businesses. So I think it's like small issues like that people have like small concerns over. But in any case, so what is it about, like, when you decided to move into Ocean Springs, what was it about the city that you were drawn to? Because you just saw it initially from the perspective of, say, the harbor, right?
Correct.
And so as you moved through the city, what gave you a feeling of like, I need to live here?
Well, first off, the people were incredibly civil, very social, very friendly. They seemed to be genuine. And I come from a large family, and I saw a lot of families, and I love the architecture of the city. I love the diversity of the city. Ocean Springs is very open. We have many generations, and each generation has something very special to offer. We have the old school people, we have the young generation, we have progressive, a few radicals, but that's what makes Ocean Springs special. It's what we have to offer. There's a Lebanese restaurant, of course, downtown, and I'm originally from Lebanon.
Okay.
So that was right up my alley. I felt like I was back home.
Yeah.
And I went in and I got to meet him, and we became good friends over the years. And it's just, I just could not get past how easily everything is accessible. You know, I can walk, I can cycle, I can go to the beach, I can go watch a show, I can go to a concert, I can go have dinner with friends. Like, everything is so easily accessible at such an affordable price. You know, you would have to pay twice as much to get the amenities you get if you live elsewhere.
Yeah, that's very true. Moving back here actually made my decision to get out of the military actually easier, because the cost of living was much lower.
Affordable.
And yeah, excellent. So when I came back, and I had to leave Ocean Springs to actually appreciate it, you know, so when I left, it's the sort of story of the prodigal son, right? You leave and you have your journeys in life, and then you come back to home, right?
Yes.
And so when I left Ocean Springs to join the military, it took me to California, you know, the opposite side of the country. And that job that I had there took me to more than 50 countries. So I've seen 6 continents. I've been all over the world, and there's just no place like this. Yeah.
I wasn't born in Ocean Springs, but I chose to make Ocean Springs my home.
Right.
Because that's how much I love the city. I lived probably maybe in over 19 different countries, but this is home.
Yeah.
You know, and I never felt home till I came to Ocean Springs.
Yeah.
This is home.
So when I drove through here, and again, it's I think everybody experiences this when you drive down Washington and you get this small town feeling that exists among these massive oak trees that are providing a natural organic canopy to the city and really create a wonderful backdrop. It reminds me of how important taking care of those trees are, right? So how can the city better manage the trees in the city while also protecting the rights of the citizens or the desires of the citizens? Or are we doing a good job already?
I think the current administration, again, is doing the best they can with the knowledge that they have. I am hoping I could shed a new light on the importance of the trees and all the amenities that they provide for us. I don't know if the city currently has an arborist or someone who specializes in trees. If that person is not available, I think we need one.
Right. I think the city had one either by contract or actual city employment. To my knowledge, I don't think they do.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Well, I'll try to get us one. Because somebody who has the knowledge and the education and would be what you call the expert would know more than anyone what each tree needs. And that person can certainly be provided with all the tools that he or she needs to get the job done. I love trees, and my daughter climbs trees.
Sure.
And
I've been there.
Then they chopped down a tree that we actually loved a lot. We used to go and climb, so now we have to go to the Ruskin oak. And we climb that with the permission of the owner of the property, of course.
Absolutely.
I can only climb on the branches that are closer to the ground due to my age. But my young daughter, she can go all the way to the top.
I'm too scared. I'm terrified of heights. So I enjoy the challenge of climbing trees, and I've climbed a number of trees in my day. Yeah. But still, I get to a point where high enough. Yes. We're good to go. Yeah. But, and it's not the fear of the height itself, and it's not necessarily the fear of falling. It's the fear of impact.
Yes.
You know?
Yes.
Yeah.
And when you fall as a child is different from when you fall as an adult.
Oh yeah.
Yeah. The recovery is longer.
I like to tell people when I hit 30 hit me back. I started back issues, knee issues. Yes. And I'm sure it's only downhill from here. But
yes, welcome to the club.
Right. Yeah. So you had a hand in maintaining the city entrances, right? And those, I think, as I've heard it put, those are kind of gateways to the city, right? And so those are the first things that we see as you come into the city. What can we do to better, I guess, improve the way that people come into the city in terms of the imagery, maybe that's development or what have you?
In terms of beautification, what we can do is up till recently, I had to resign from my job from the city.
I was going to ask you about that afterwards.
Afterwards?
But
okay,
yeah.
well, okay.
But since you brought it up, because I was very curious about that, because I would think that there's a conflict, like you'd be running and also criticizing your employer, if you were running a campaign. So,
well, what happened is I went and asked the city attorney if I can run, and the answer was yes. So of course I get my team together and I register and pay the fees, and we get the ball rolling, order the shirts, the signs, the push cards, and we start to get, our strategy of how we're going to launch this. And then a week later, I was called into office and was told that I could not run as mayor. I'd have to step down. And I asked why, and I was told, well, you are employed by the city, and there's a conflict of interest.
Sure.
And I'm not sure if other candidates are employed by the city. I don't know like the details of their employment.
Everybody that I've talked to thus far hasn't, they're not employed by the city.
Okay. So then I was told that I would have to either resign or the city was going to terminate me, because I refused to back down.
Sure.
Because I'm here to represent the people and serve the people. And this cause is very important to me. So I chose to resign because I'm on good terms. I'm in good standing employee of the city. And I spoke and addressed the honorable mayor and the distinguished alderman. And I just stated, that this is going to cause me hardship, but the cost of backing down for me would be greater. And I do this for the people of Ocean Springs and for the integrity of my family.
Yeah.
And I'm teaching my daughter also that when you start a job, you finish it. And you might have to go through a lot of walls to climb, and some people might try to hinder you or fight you, but you have. I think you're doing an incredible thing, like just the freedom to have this and give us exposure. Otherwise I would have never had. So thank you for that. Yeah,
look, it's not a problem, and I was happy to do it, and I'm having a blast doing it. I do think, unfortunately, the people overlook city politics. You're kind of left to your own devices to get media out, and quite frankly, it can be expensive. And so I wanted to provide access to some content for you, because quite frankly, you're a member of our community, right? And so I want to know more about you. And I can't get that from you reading a speech. I can't get that from just this transactional thing where I ask you a question, you answer just that question, and we can't dive deeper into it. I don't learn much.
Or I say, I approve this message.
Yeah, exactly.
I'm Summer Devrow.
Yeah.
And I approve this message. What does that mean? I approve this message.
But people get to experience you as Summer, as an individual, because we're going to talk about fringe things, like on the outskirts of your belief system, or things that influence your why you're running, for example.
My decision making.
Yeah. So
you want to ask me about the flowers?
Yeah, okay. For sure. I know that's something that you brought up, and I'm curious about it. Now, this was a grant from Mississippi State, yes?
From Mississippi State University Agricultural Program, yes.
Okay, yes. Excellent. So go ahead and tell me about the wildflowers.
Well, they only approve serious inquiries, and of course we were dead serious about it. We got approved. You receive a packet of wildflower seeds.
Okay.
And the packet is enough to cover about approximately an acre of land. And what I wanted to do with those flowers is that we plant them across patchy areas of Ocean Springs.
Okay.
And that will help us tie the whole town to give it a cohesive look. It's like when you paint your house a certain color, it gives you a continued visual effect.
Yeah.
Now, what I do love about the wildflower seeds is that, of course, they're donated, so there was no cost. Once you plant them across the city, you have zero maintenance. You do not water wildflower seeds. Nature waters them. They come back every year because they're perennials. Sometimes they come in mixed with annuals, and those don't come back.
Yeah.
They grow quickly. You don't have to fertilize them. You don't have to do anything. You just plant them and let nature take its course.
Well, that's fantastic. So my concern for something like that, excuse me, would be, are you introducing a non-native species to the area? How's it going to affect the existing, flowers or grass or whatever?
We're not. Actually, those are all native wildflowers that grow naturally in Mississippi.
Okay.
We're considered zone 8 and zone 9, and occasionally 7, depending on who you're asking. Mm-hmm. So what happens also when you introduce plants that are not native, they don't do well and you have to tend to them. Or if you plant trees improperly, as we've seen recently, they will not take on. People do a lot of crepe myrtles because they grow up quickly and they flower. But I think we have enough crepe myrtles, so I'd like to go in another direction where we have wildflowers that are native to Mississippi.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. No, that sounds fantastic,
I
honestly.
think it is. I think it's wonderful. And I also have another project dear to my heart, and that is I want every neighborhood to start their own little neighborhood garden where they grow things. I want every child, every person who's interested to be given a free tree donated or a plant and grow it and tend to it. Mm-hmm. And then I would like to expand to a community garden. There's a great location right off Bienville Boulevard that would be great for a community garden where our people come and tend to the plants and come meet on Sundays, Saturdays, beautiful weather. You can, harvest whatever you're growing. You could do fresh cut flowers. And it truly will bring us closer together as people because we are a lot more alike than we are different. We all experience joy the same way. We experience sadness. We experience happiness. We go through life. We're more alike than we are different. And I think having a community garden is a very subtle way to show people how much we have in common. And then maybe you can trade flowers with your neighbors. And we'll grow from there. And maybe we can also do contest of, who's the best community garden of the month.
Sure.
And I think that's also something that Ocean Springs does not have. And I'd be more than happy to participate in that project. That's something very dear to me.
How would you implement something like that, within these neighborhoods? Because it's going to take land, right? I mean, are you so? For example, Bienville Place, Heron Bayou, Magnolia Bayou, Stark Bayou, all these neighborhoods. Would the city have to purchase land, or is this how would one go about starting this?
Well, some of those neighborhoods have islands in them, right in the center, and instead of crepe myrtles or artificial plants or plants that are not native to Mississippi, like African violets, etc., we can use those areas that are already existing. And we can, till the soil and put nutrients in it and then just plant away. And each person, can bring their own contribution. And I think it will be a beautiful thing.
Yeah, I think so too.
I really do. I think it will be a beautiful thing.
Yeah, that's fantastic.
And also you could have perhaps create an ecosystem at some point, because you'll have animals and you'll have water and you'll have plant matter. So you're creating something very small, and we're all part of something greater than ourselves. Yeah. And I think that having a community will tie you into something. And people also love a witness to their life. I don't know if you've noticed this, but people are constantly taking pictures by statues or monuments or flower fields or places they've been because people matter and they want to feel important. And they like to share their life experiences. And when you participate in something like that, you are witnessing another person's life and how they're doing it, and in return they're witnessing yours. And I think that's very empowering to the people.
I think so too. And so you're basically creating within each neighborhood something that neighborhood produced. It's a product of them. It represents them. So there's bound to be some diversity in the different gardens. It'd be interesting to see how they vary as well. And you're primarily talking about having like a flower garden or non-fruit producing garden, right? Or non-food producing.
For the neighborhood, I want it to be whatever you want because I don't live in your neighborhood. But for the community, it would be mainly flowers, and it would be a butterfly garden. I would like to attract pollinators. I think they're very important. They play a major role in our ecosystem. And it'll be a beautiful place. You can have a picnic, you can run around in the fields and have a good time.
Yeah, that's I didn't know this, but apparently bees are becoming stolen more and more, like from beekeepers, and some beekeepers are even paid to bring their bees to a farm to aid in the pollination, and in the pollination process, So
They play a crucial part. If you want to eat, you need pollinators.
Yeah, absolutely.
Especially if you eat natural food, processed food is made. That's not real food. It's something made. And my idea of food is, if anything looks good 30 days after you bought it, it's probably not food.
Yeah, I'd say that's a pretty reliable rule of thumb. So it's wonderful to hear that sort of tenacity for somebody that's wanting to take on such a job, and it's fantastic. And nobody being across from somebody like this, and of course there's an audio version of the show as well, but being across from somebody like this, you get to actually see if their body movement, if the essence of what they're saying rings true. You know what I mean? Because, some people might pontificate about something, but for me, when you said that, it connected. It felt like that was certainly true for you. You believe it in principle. You're acting it out, obviously, and I think that's fantastic.
I do.
Yeah.
There's a quote from Mahatma Gandhi where he once said that whenever you come with a project for your life, the first thing people do is ignore you. Then they laugh at you. Then they fight you, and then you win.
Mm-hmm. I love that.
And that's for anybody who is trying to do something for their life or for their family or for their community. Whatever your cause is, you never stop. You keep going and you see your project through till the very end. Mm. And hopefully the outcome is in your favor.
Right. Well, with enough grit and tenacity, I think it will be. So what principles kind of characterize you? Like what do you lean on? What's the sort of principled moral fabric that you have that's very important to you? Maybe rules that you won't break for yourself, personal rules.
Well, I have to be true to myself.
What does that mean for you?
It means I will not compromise what I believe in for someone else. I'm running for this office to serve the people, to represent the diverse people of Ocean Springs. Ocean Springs is not just one criteria of people. Mm-hmm. And I feel that I represent that because I am cosmopolitan. Mm-hmm. I am very intelligent. I am educated. And I'm very dynamic. I have a lot of energy, and I'm very dedicated, and I'm loyal to the people that I am with. Mm. So if I'm working for you, my loyalty is to you, to the residents of the city, not to anyone else. My campaign is using donations. I actually deliberately refused to do fundraisers because my fear was this: if someone is backing me financially a lot, what do they want from me once I get in office? I feel when people have that leverage over you, you're going to have to return the favor in some way or form. And I refuse to do that. Yeah. So I operate on donations only.
Well, it's very wise, and I think that's I think it keeps a purity to what you're doing, because you're vacating yourself or separating yourself from these sort of idea that which I think a lot of people have, and it's that money leads to corruption. Yeah.
And if someone is corrupt slightly to begin with, once they're there, it could
it get worse. Right. Yes. Right. Yeah. I think of the idea of the rotten apple, in a basket of apples, right? And that one, a rotten apple will rot the rest of the apples. And so it's important to, surgically, deliberately remove that toxin from the batch, so as to not poison the rest. So that certainly makes sense. What are your thoughts on growing the city? Like expanding the city, annexation, or?
In terms of annexation, I am in favor of one part to be annexed, and that's just due to my knowledge and my time that I spend in the city. I think if we annex 57, if I can draw a picture for you visually, there's Rod and Reel Road, mm-hmm. and if you follow the natural curve of Fort Bayou, and I think the road on the right would be Riley, and top is 57. Mm-hmm. I don't know if I'm able to draw that mental picture for you. I think that if we annex that part, it would be beneficial for the people in 57 because they already are provided with utilities from the city of Ocean Springs. They're currently paying a time and a half for their bills, so that will help them lower their bill and save them some money. Public Works probably will have to hire 4 to 5 new employees to maintain that area. And so that would mean more jobs, and they would be included of the city. I think personally, that's just my opinion, anything above the bridge, we need to leave alone because the cost of annexing them would be just far too high.
Okay. All right. What about going farther south, like to include the high school area?
I think we're good if we do 57 for now.
Okay. Yeah. And so as far as like maybe the St. Martin area around there, north of Fort Bayou, just kind of leave that alone? Yes,
I love San Martin. They're welcome to come visit, enjoy our amenities, but I don't want to annex them. That will raise their property taxes.
Sure.
And my understanding is a lot of them choose to live there to take that break. And being in Ocean Springs is exclusive. We're very exclusive and very desirable and sought after. And I also don't think it's wise to take on more projects than you can actually commit and maintain. You know, everybody wants to start a project, but what is the cost of maintenance for that project and how long can you keep it up? So I think 57 would be very doable and possible. And with all the respect to the other communities, I think we just leave them alone for now.
Okay.
Unless they want to come join and pay more taxes,
right.
You know.
Fair, look, fair enough. I think when I bring up Gulf Park Estates, you know, that's one where kind of like what you described in St. Martin, that people choose to kind of live out there so as to not be within city limits, so they don't have to follow those same ordinances and rules and what have you, you know. But it is an already developed area, you know. It's so there's that argument for sure. Do you have thoughts on annexing Gulf Park Estates at all, or no? Yeah.
57.
57. Okay.
Yeah, I can only do one thing at a time.
Sure.
Do it efficiently, do it right. And then in the future, you know, if that's possible. And ultimately also it's the people's choice. The people choose where they want to live. So my loyalty relies to the people of Ocean Springs and the people who choose to pay the tax bracket here and made this city what it is today.
I gotcha. And to your point about hiring more people, I mean, that's more area to police to provide fire services, all these things. I mean, we're not talking about, you know, hey, just open the door and everything's fine. Like there's a huge cost increase to something like that. But it makes sense going up 57 because all the underground infrastructure is already there, provided by the city. So that,
and like I said, to their advantage, they would be able to pay like the regular rating, because now they pay a time and a half. So that would cut the cost of their utility bills if they were to be annexed by us.
Interesting.
So I'll help them out.
Yeah. So tell me about your opinion of art and culture in the city.
I think we're very rich, and I think that we have a variety of different artists who bring different things to the city. I love the arts. My daughter used to take art classes from Carmen Lugo when she was at the Mary C. She enjoyed them immensely. Of course, we have the Peter Anderson Festival, and we have a lot of talented artists that have their work displayed in some businesses. What I was hoping I could do is I want to commission the artists of Ocean Springs to come up with their favorite piece, whether it's a greyhound, something that represents the city. And you can create your sculpture out of your favorite medium, whether it be fiberglass or metal or copper, whatever your medium is. And I would like to actually display those around the entrances of the city that we are trying to beautify. That would bring some exposure to the artist. And maybe possibly we can have art contests to see, for people to drive through the city and vote who's their favorite artist, or who created their favorite masterpiece. So I'd like to put one, when you first get off the bridge to come to Ocean Springs. I would like to put one somewhere in East Ocean Springs. I would like to put them strategically in different areas where you have to drive and navigate the city, because a lot of people are comfortable in just one little area and they don't go somewhere else. And if we do that, we'll give our local artists their exposure that they need and deserve. And we will shed light on how much we have to offer for other people. And think about this, if you're driving, looking at different sculptures and you're taking pictures, you're able to see maybe a new coffee shop that you haven't seen before. So that will help expand business and help people spend money in other areas also, not just in one small area. Because a lot of businesses that I talk to feel excluded because they're on the outskirts. So if we extend our arm that far, that will bring them closer.
Right. Yeah. Matt Stebley has an idea that's somewhat similar. He's talked about commissioning artists and sculptors to make large sculptures in different parts of the city, but then market that as a way, maybe through geotagging or what have you, through an app, but bring people to see those sculptures around businesses, and then of course they'll visit that and see the other businesses around, and ideally shop there as well. Yeah. So I love the idea of coupling art as a utility for increasing business, because it does seem like increasing business versus preserving art seem to be at odds with one another at times in the city, and it doesn't make sense to me. Yeah. But what are your thoughts on the Mary C? I mean, what can we do to expand the Mary C, or I guess improve the Mary C?
I spoke with a business owner who thought we could perhaps rent it as a wedding venue. She has a bakery, and I have been asked if we could rent the stage, if we can try to host shows, have more seminars, more lectures, make it open. On the outside part, we could do picnics. I am mother of a very talented young lady, and I was thinking if we could utilize buildings like the Mary C, and we have that stage at Fort Maurepas. Why don't we let our young people, the youth, come, and maybe we can have talent shows. They can come and show us their talent, whether you play music, whether you tell jokes, whether you're a magician. I want to bring everybody the attention that they need and deserve. And I want to do that on regular basis. Now think about this. The stage at Fort Maurepas Park is open to the public, so it's free. A lot of those activities I'm proposing cost very little to no money.
Sure.
And I think if we are able to do that, we will bring the whole community together, because everybody wants to belong. And once you feel like you belong somewhere, you're more likely to stay and you're more likely to come back, as we see in your case. Sure,
absolutely. I guess I hadn't thought about it until now, but those areas that outdoor, there's a word for that, which escapes me. In any case, that outdoor stage area does seem underutilized, and perhaps not utilized at all. Like I've never heard of anybody holding an event there, taking advantage of that. And don't they have like hookups for sound or something? I could be off base of that and thinking of somewhere else. I know. I'm probably thinking of Pensacola, because they have one out there that's over by the stadium. In any case,
I know enough musicians in Ocean Springs that will be more than willing and more than glad to come and bring their equipment and give our youth a chance to shine.
Right.
And like I said, I drive by there often, and I think, why aren't we using this? It's free, and hopefully with the pandemic behind us, families can bring their picnic blankets, and, we can just also get to know each other as a community.
Sure. The Fort Maurepas is a good topic of discussion, specifically the tree there, because there's a tree that was damaged during Zeta, a very old, beautiful tree, provides a natural canopy to the playground that's there, but Zeta damaged it, and it's at risk of falling over. If we had an arborist, we could probably get a pretty solid opinion on how to fix that tree. What are your thoughts? I mean, should we just kind of pull that tree out and call it a day, or?
My thoughts are we should get an expert to look at the tree and assess the situation. Trees are very important. However, our children play at that park. So should the tree be hazardous to the safety, then the public safety has to come first.
Sure.
I love trees, and I do not advocate, doing any harm or any interference with their natural life. Mm-hmm. However, if the tree being there would threaten the safety of our children and the public who attend that park, then we would have to take another course of action.
Well, to your previous point of having an arborist, you could avoid the sort of problem that they have right now. And that's that some of the aldermen have talked to arborists, and they'll express an opinion that the tree could possibly be saved or rerouted, right? But as a city, you have to operate on, well, put your name on this piece of paper that says that. And they can't find an arborist that will do that. Okay. So every arborist is recommending as a result that the tree be cut down.
Okay.
But if there was somebody employed by the city, the city could provide, the sort of
the solution.
The solution, exactly. But somebody they wouldn't have to worry about being sued by the city, because they're given their expert testimony employed by the city and an agent of the city. So you could avoid that problem. So I think that's probably a good argument for you to, say, well, look, if we had an arborist in the city, we wouldn't have this problem.
Yeah.
But yeah, it's a tough one, right? Because you're having to balance, the obviously, I mean, that tree could have been on, like, in that area whenever D'Iberville, came ashore in 1699. That's how old those trees can be. So, you're taking away a piece of history if you have to get rid of that tree, and that's something that has to be addressed for sure.
And that's something also you don't want to do.
Right.
However, I'm sorry, I lost my thought.
No, that's fine. So, you were saying that pulling that tree out basically is something you don't want to do.
Thank you. I remember. What I was going to say is you will have to make hard decisions sometimes. And sometimes whatever your decision is, you will end up pleasing some people and upsetting people. Mm-hmm. So no matter what you do in life, whether it's tree trimming or leaving the tree alone or cutting the tree, you're going to have people who support you and you're going to have people who oppose you. But again, my intention is, if the tree will cause threat or any harm to the safety of our citizens, then I'm afraid the tree will be secondary to the value of human life. The tree is extremely valuable, but I cannot afford to lose a child or someone who is visiting the park. The human life, we're on top of the chain, so we have to put humans first. But I like to keep the trees first as well. But if I have to choose between a tree and the safety of a human,
naturally,
then of course the human life will become first. Yes.
Right, and that certainly makes sense. One of the solutions I've heard that was rumored was that they would drive large poles into the ground to drive the tree back into the ground. Mm-hmm. The issues are very practical. One is that it's sandy soil underneath. What are you going to anchor to? And two, these trees will move the foundations of 2- and 3-story homes. Like, what guarantee do you have that the tree is just going to move despite this rod that's in the ground? You know what I mean? Yeah. So, yeah.
There is no guarantee. And man, every time you put a stick in the ground, you're interfering with nature.
Sure.
So be careful, where you're putting the sticks.
Right. Yeah, I mean, simply put, that's very true. You mentioned, I forget exactly what you said, but you've got to make, at the end of the day, every decision you make is gonna, you're gonna have opponents and
supporters. And
right. So, what can you do to or what is it that you do to make sure that you're making the right decision and causing the least sort of anxiety when making those decisions?
Do my research, do my homework, be truthful, be honest, and be informed, not influenced. Mm-hmm. I want to make a decision because I have the information that I need to make the best decision I can. A lot of people get influenced or intimidated by others or by a group that they're surrounded by. And that's a recipe for disaster. Yeah,
absolutely. As the mayor of a city, I mean, you're having to represent so many different people and perspectives. And we were talking before the show, the frustrating part is that, you've got 18,000 people, but only 4,000 people are actually, coming out to vote.
That's correct.
what are your plans to kind of increase that voting turnout?
Well, the League of Women Voters is doing the voting online this year. So for people who are still concerned for COVID and do not want to leave the home, that will facilitate their capacity.
You're good.
Sorry.
Everything's fine. Yeah.
That will facilitate them voting at home without having to leave. I think the voting is being made easier this year for those also who want to go out. We have different locations. I am hoping we could have a tidal wave of voters. I want the people to wake up. I want the people to wave and vote and come to the city. Mm-hmm. And I want the people to voice their concerns, because unless you vote, you don't get to have a say-so. So your vote is very powerful. Why don't you use it? Some people feel my vote doesn't matter. They're going to do what they want to do anyway. That's not true. Your vote does matter. When you get the candidate who's actually there to serve you and work for you, you're going to get a lot done. Versus when you get a candidate who is there for whatever other reasons besides serving the public.
Right. And there really shouldn't be any reason other than that, right?
Yes, yes. And we have a lot of young registered voters who don't vote. I looked at the voter history and the information of the voters. They're mostly homeowners and business owners. And I was sad to see that our young people don't vote. So I would like to see them get excited and vote for a mayor that will represent them. And don't forget about this. Our city is very cultured. We have a lot of events. You need a mayor who represents you, somebody who is intelligent, elegant, poised, exciting to be around, dynamic, gets to know the constituents by name, somebody who's honest and personable. Right. Because when they leave the city, that will be the image they will have. So think carefully about that. If you could choose one person and that person will speak to you, speak to your heart and your family and your community. And that's, of course, up to the public. That's why we're a democracy.
Sure.
You choose whomever you want. And that's the beauty of the whole process.
Absolutely.
And I'm actually glad there are 5 people running because that gives you more choices.
Right.
Instead of only 2 people, for instance. You have a lot of very, very well-qualified people.
Yeah, I know people that were, I don't want to say upset with themselves, but they saw an opportunity after the fact that Stephen Palazzo ran unopposed, right? So he just got it,
Running against yourself.
Yeah, exactly. But what you could do is, if there's only one person and you ran, you could be in contention for that spot. That. Having more people, I think, only benefits the citizens for the reason that you said. It gives more choice and more diversity of choice, and I don't think that's a problem necessarily.
Exactly. And also, we're a democracy. Do you want somebody that's constantly in office? We need fresh blood. We need new thoughts. We need progressive people. We need new ideas. We're very diverse. We cannot be represented simply by one age group, for instance, or one gender. This is a very diverse, growing community. Ocean Springs is very progressive. We're very open, loving, accommodating, and the people here are very smart. So I think the Board of Aldermen and the mayor should represent that in this new administration. We need people from different walks of life, and also we have very few people who are young running, and the young people have a fresh perspective on life. That they can bring new ideas. They're more open to change also, and of course change for the better, not for the worse. So that's very important, that the mayor represents who the people are, who the majority of the people are.
Absolutely. And to your point about younger people participating in local politics, they might have knowledge of a technology that might benefit the city. After speaking with one gentleman who works around computers and IT stuff, he was educating me on the value of that with just streetlights. Ford, for example, is working on digital infrastructure with LA County to where a police vehicle, if they're responding to an accident, based on the speed of the vehicle, the route they're taking, where they're going, it'll adjust all the lights along the route. so that it stops everybody, and then they can just kind of go there and not have to slow down for an intersection. They go through the intersections anyway, but they have to slow down and everything else. But there's a reasonable assurance of safety if you can use the lights and you can just kind of go through those. And, you're talking about critical seconds where somebody could have access to save somebody's life or help them out. Yeah.
I look forward to that technology. I look forward to implementing it.
Yeah, absolutely. And I think stuff like that's coming. I think that's coming as part of the future. What's Ocean Springs missing? It's tough to say, right? Because the city's pretty amazing. But is there something that the city needs more of?
Well, there is one project that's dear to my heart, and we don't have it in the city.
Okay.
And that would be an activity. We have a lot of parks for small children and toddlers, and we have a lot of activities for adults in terms of restaurants and bars and shows they can attend. What our city is missing is an activity for those children who don't want to go to the park anymore and not old enough to enter adult activities. And for those whom I call our youth, I would like to have a small skate park. We could start with a half pipe, and we could have different levels of beginner, intermediate, and professional. The skate park will be very locally convenient. The maintenance cost is going to be low because it's going to be concrete. There is no grass to be cut. There are no flowers to tend to. It's going to be, of course, wide open so parents can supervise their children. There are youth centers in other cities that are completely covered. And I don't want to do that because although I want them to feel like they have privacy, they really don't have privacy. So there's a reason behind my logic. And if the park is out in the open, young people sometimes can get in trouble when unsupervised. So not having the privacy to do so will eliminate that problem.
Sure.
And then I was hoping maybe we can have a skate shop also where they can sell equipment and they can sell repairs that you need for your skateboard. I see a lot of young people skateboarding downtown. They're on Porter. I mean, it's a hazard. They could get hit. As a mother, I am concerned for their safety. And then we have a couple of cool kids. They just carry the skateboard, but they're not really skating.
Right.
So even whether you're an avid skater or you're just a lover for the sport, I want all of those young people to have an outlet where they can go skate and mom can have a drink or she can have something to eat. And probably maybe we can have food trucks or a small restaurant if possible.
Sure.
So you can skate and then you can eat and then you can go to the shop. And again, that will open more business and it will bring a lot more people. We have a lot of youth who are not doing anything and they're cooped up at home and they're on the phone and they're on social media. And I am certain if we give them an outlet, a place where they feel they can be comfortable and discover themselves and grow and meet other children, I think that would be a good thing for the city.
I certainly do. Yeah, there used to be, to my knowledge, the only skate park that existed kind of down here was in Gulfport. Yeah. And that's closed down since. Now, Keesler built a skate park on base and it didn't last long because of the risk of injury and everything else. So it's shut down, but all the equipment's there. That might be a cheap way to procure things. But anyway.
Now, here's the thing. When you're skating on the street, you are skating at your own risk. So coming to the skate park will be no different. You know, we will not be liable. And there will be a huge sign that says skate at your own risk. So broken bones, of course you have to skate with a helmet and follow the rules in order to be allowed to skate to begin with. But should you be injured, life is a contact sport. If you're out there living, you'll receive an injury of some sort. Hopefully not, but that's part of life.
Yeah.
And I'm not promoting or trying to put them in harm's way. I mean, they're skating on Porter, on Washington. That's more dangerous to me than being in a space that's specifically designed for them to skate.
Yeah, I certainly agree. And when I was younger, I used to dabble in those sorts of sports. And
my brother used to skateboard in empty swimming pools.
Yeah. I was too scared to do that, honestly. And they had they had a bowl that was in Gulfport at that skate park, and I was just, it wasn't my thing. Yeah. It wasn't my thing. I was more of a street skater, but back in the day.
Well, if we have one, maybe you can come and show us your moves.
Yeah, that's going to be a hard pass. Again, that goes back to the falling out of a tree at 30 conversation. So,
yeah. and you know, a lot of families that I met and spoke with, you know, when I went to their homes to ask for their vote, almost every family said to me, our teenagers need something to do. We need something. And so I thought, how about a skate park? You know, it's an activity. It's open. It's to the public. And it's low maintenance. And the days it rains, you won't be skating.
Right. When I lived in Navarre, they had an indoor gym that the city had, and so they would have open gym for basketball. I'd love to see something like that. You had to pay for it, and they also had an adults only time. I think Sunday and Wednesday nights at 7 p.m. and it was like $30 a month, and so that I think helped set aside the cost of air conditioning or what have you.
I want it to be free to the public because I feel not everyone can afford a membership. We thought about having, like, for instance, you pay $10 a month and you have a wristband and you are a member. And then we thought, but what about the less fortunate who cannot afford or don't have the means to do so? So, you know, what's fair is fair, and, you know, it's open to the public because everyone deserves to enjoy life, regardless of their financial status.
Yeah, and that's the unfortunate downside, is that when you add a price to that, you create some sort of exclusivity to some degree, you know, and that's the downside of it. But some things like like that, you don't have to worry about air conditioning, you know?
Exactly.
But say for like an indoor gymnasium, things are a bit different. You know, so.
And with indoors, again, the teenagers will have privacy where, you know, you're going to have to hire security and someone to supervise them at all times. But
sure.
Like I said, if the skate park, of course, is out in the open, you're either skating or you're not.
Right.
You're not going to be able to do anything else but skate, you know, maybe have a seat and enjoy a meal and shop for equipment for your skateboard.
Makes sense. What other message do you want to get out to the voters of Ocean Springs?
I really want you to make a difference this year. I want you to go out and vote. I want you to vote for your favorite candidate. I want you to vote for who speaks to your heart, who you really believe will represent you. You know, and this is not about, oh, this is my best friend or this is my cousin. I want you to vote because the candidates running, each one of them offers something. And we're all very unique in what we bring to the table. And I want you to vote for the candidate who wants you to grow in every way. You know, people grow socially, emotionally, financially. You know, I support all the businesses in Ocean Springs. I would like to be able to remove the financial hurdles that systematically restrains their growth. You know, we have a lot of unnecessary regulations. I don't know if I can remove the tax for business owners. That would be a dream come true.
Right.
But I have to get there and see what I can do for them. You know, but it's our duty to facilitate everything our businesses need to thrive and success because we rely on them. I live local, I shop local, and I buy only local. I support Ocean Springs business. I don't do business a lot in other areas. Occasionally Amazon for my teenager.
Yeah, I mean, you kind of have to these days. Like.
Yeah, but mostly, you know, I am loyal to Ocean Springs.
Wonderful. Well, Summer, I've had a fantastic time talking to you.
Thank you.
And I'll tell you, and I say this all the time, and we've kind of hit on it. It's the voters that benefit when there's such a great talent pool, right? And I'm excited that you're running, especially after talking to you. I think you've got some fantastic ideas, and you've got a great fire, tenacity, and passion about you that I think this is going to help bring out or show people as well. You know, this isn't a speech thing here. This is just a conversation, and I think that this is going to benefit you greatly.
Thank you. I'm very excited. Thank you for having me. This is my first interview, so I hope there is not.
Well, you did great. You crushed it.
I crushed it. If only we can drop the album. Yeah, the album will follow.
Yeah. It'll be. I'll use a young person word. It'll be lit, as they say, right?
Yes.
I think that's what they say. Well, anyway, Summer. Again, thank you. Best of luck to you and your campaign. And thank you for stopping by.
Thank you. Thank you.
All right, everybody. See ya. That's it.